ॐ
सदाशिवसमारम्भाम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम्
गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सहना भवतु
भवतु
सहनौ भुनक्तु
सहनौ
सह
भुनक्तु
वीर्यं
सह वीर्यं
कर्वावहै
करवावहै
यस्मिनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै
मा विद्विषावहै
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya.
So we had completed the 14th chapter in the last class, well on our way to nearing the end of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, before entering into the 15th chapter, I would like you to go back to 14 and chant the 19th verse. The 14th chapter, the 19th verse. Let us chant. नान्यं गुणेभ्यश्च कर्तारम्
नान्यं
नान्यं
गुणेभ्यः
गुणेभ्यः
नान्यं गुणेभ्यः
कर्तारम्
कर्तारम्
यदा द्रष्टानुपश्यति
यदा द्रष्टानुपश्यति
द्रष्टानुपश्यति
गुणेभ्यश्च परं वेत्ति
गुणेभ्यः परं
गुणेभ्यश्च परं
वेत्ति
वेति
मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति
मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति.
Okay, so I am muting you all so that we don't get disturbed. Now, if you look at the word param vettihi, there is a word called param used. And many commentators say that the entire 15th chapter is a commentary on this particular word param. So this chapter is titled Purushottama Yogaha. And if you look at the word Purushottama, Uttama Purushaha. If you reverse it, Uttama Purushaha. And Uttama Purushaha means, here in this context, remember it means Nirguna Chaitanya, not Saguna Ishvara. Nirguna Brahman, not Saguna Brahman. This idea should be carefully remembered. So in this 15th chapter, the context is Nirguna Brahma, not Saguna Brahma. And in his commentary, in his Bhashyam on this chapter, he introduces this chapter very powerfully. Shankaracharya introduces this chapter very powerfully, saying, Yasmat mad adhinam karminam karma phalam jnaninam jnana phalam cha. What does it mean? Yasmat, because karminam mad adhinam karma phalam. The karma phalam of a person who is a karmi, who does karma, mad adhinam, depends upon me. Similarly, jnaninam jnana phalam mad adhinam. Similarly, the jnana phalam of a person who is pursuing jnana yoga also depends upon me. Okay, it's a very interesting comment. What is required for jnanam to take place in the mind? What's required is the teaching, pramana, right? And what is required to be able to appreciate what the pramanam is saying? So pramanam can be Acharya giving the Shastra Vakyam. So what is required for pramanam to take effect is that there should be appropriate conditions for that to take effect. Which means what? You should have a efficient, competent antakarana. Mind should be competent. Body should be healthy enough, at least healthy enough to be able to sit for a few hours every week for Shravanam and Mananam. Eyes should be good to be able to read. Ears should be healthy to be able to understand and hear. And all these are dependent upon whom? Upon the grace of Ishvara. And that is why he says, Jnana phalam jnaninam cha madadhinam. Not only is the karma phalam of a person who does karma dependent upon Ishvara. Why? Because Ishvara is karma phaladata. So if I do some karma, the punyam and papam is dependent upon Ishvara only. But even for the jnani, he says, there is dependence on Ishvara. Because of these things, a conducive environment has to be there for jnanam to be assimilated. So this is the very powerful little opening line which Shankara gives. Now the first three slokas of this chapter are basically an imagery which is based upon the tree, Ashwatha tree. So it's called a Vriksha Kalpana, imagery of a tree. And we have seen this before, not in Bhagavad Gita. Where have we seen this imagery?
We are talking about Ratha Kalpana in
We're talking
Kathopanishad.
about Vriksha Kalpana.
Vriksha.
Okay, I will talk.
Kathopanishad only.
Kathopanishad only.
Kathopanishad only, yeah.
Right? Because we have just finished Kathopanishad, we should be able to remember. And therefore, remember that all these slokas are a description of the defects of samsara. Samsara, dosha, varana. And when you point out samsara dosha, what is it that you are saying? You are saying this particular object is not worthy of acquiring. So it is for vairagya. Three slokas are for vairagya praptyartham. Enable us to get vairagya. So with this, we will start. Please unmute yourself and we will chant. अथ पञ्चदशोऽध्यायः
अथ
अथ
पञ्चदशोऽध्यायः
पञ्चदशोऽध्यायः
पुरुषोत्तमयोगः
पुरुषोत्तमयोगः
श्रीभगवानुवाच
श्रीभगवानुवाच
ऊर्ध्वमूलमधः शाखम्
ऊर्ध्वमूलमधः शाखम्
अश्वत्थम् प्राहुरव्ययम्
अश्वत्थं प्राहुरव्ययम्
नांसि यस्य पर्णानि
छन्दांसि
यस्य
पर्णानि
यस्तं वेद स वेदवित्
यस्तं
वेद स
वेदवित्
वेदवित्
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Lord said, Lord Krishna said, what did he say? Avyayam Ashwatham Prahu. He said that the Avyayam Ashwatham, the eternal Ashwatha tree. So Ashwatha tree is in English, I think we can, or in Hindi is people vrikshaha, fig tree in English. Okay, so people in Hindi, fig in English, Ashwatha in Sanskrit. So Sri Bhagavan was Prahuhu Avyayam Ashwatham, that eternal people tree, that Nitya people tree. How is it going to be defined? Urdhva Moolam. Moolam is the roots of the tree. Urdhvam, up. The roots are above. Adaha Shakha. So when you break the word Urdhva Moola, Urdhva Moolam, Adha Shakha. So don't break it as Urdhva Moolam Adha Shakha. Urdhva Moolam Adha Shakha. So Urdhva Moolam, the roots are above. Adaha Shakha. Adaha means below. The branches are below. And Yasya Parnani, the leaves of that Ashwatha tree, Chandamsihi, are chandas. Chanda is the verses of the Veda. So, yasya parnani chandamsihi. The leaves are like the Veda slokas, Veda mantras. And saha yaha Veda. The one who knows this idea, this, what I've just explained, if you know, what have I explained? The people tree is got roots above, branches below, and the leaves of the people tree, they are like the mantras of the Vedas. Sahaya Vedaha. He knows that Tam Vedavitu. That person is the Vedavitu. It's a Jnani, the one who knows the Vedas. Very cryptic, right? What is the corresponding verse in Kathopanishad? Urdhva Mulo Vakshakaha Esho Ashwatha Sanatanaha Tadeva Shukram Tad Brahma Tadeva Amritam Uchyati. Right? This is the very important idea that Krishna is borrowing from the Upanishad. And if you connect this to the fourth chapter where he says that there is nothing new that I am teaching, it's all been taught before. So this is not Krishna's teaching. This is the teaching of the Vedas. Krishna is putting it in his own words. And here, the first sloka is a description of the fig tree, right? Ashwatha tree. In fact, the first 2.5 verses, the first 2.5 verses until Padam Tat Parimargitavyam. No, until Sampratishta. Until Sampratishta. Those are the description of the Ashwatha tree. Therefore, first 2.5 verses are a description of the Ashwatha tree. The Ashwatha tree is being compared to samsara, right? And samsara is compared to this huge Ashwatha tree. And it is important to understand why it is being compared to Ashwatha tree. So therefore, we will go to the Shankara Bhashyam, and I will not trouble you with the Sanskrit. I will just, a few Sanskrit words here and there because we are all familiar with Hindi, therefore we should be able to understand basic Devanagari. But I am trying to give the extract from Shankara Bhashyam, which is very, very important. And he gives a very, very elaborate commentary here. He points out what is common between the Ashwatha tree and between samsara. Now, the first question is, why the comparison to Ashwatha tree? So, what is the meaning of the word Ashwatha? Right? And that, there is a Sanskrit definition. Na shwaha api sthita. Na shwaha api sthita asti. Shwaha means tomorrow. Na shwaha api sthita asti. That which will not remain tomorrow. Iti ashwastha. Ashwastha. That which is not going to be tomorrow. That is called the Ashwastha. What does it mean? When something doesn't stay till tomorrow, it is changing. Therefore, the idea to be drawn is that just like the Ashwatha tree, which is not going to be there tomorrow, the samsara also is continuously changing. In the Ashwatha tree, what is there? The branches fall, the leaves change. Every day, new leaves come, old leaves fall. And therefore, the tree itself changes every day. Similarly, the samsara also changes every day. The world which you see today is not the world which you saw yesterday. Many people have gone, many people have come. Similarly, the world which you are living in today is not going to be the world which you see tomorrow. Right? So he's going to look at the common features, which in Sanskrit we call sadharmyam, common dharma. Dharma means features here, and what is common to both. So the first one Shankara says is both are mahatvam, both are very, very large. The Ashwatha tree is very large. Samsara is also very huge. Universe. Samsara means universe here is very huge. And Anadi Anantaha. So the beginning cannot be traced for the universe. The end also cannot be traced for the universe. And the tree itself is so big that you cannot say where the root began and where is the top of the tree. Therefore, both are very big. It's not possible in both cases to trace the beginning and the end. Of course, for the tree, it is symbolic. Ultimately, you can always trace, but symbolically, compared to other trees, this tree is huge. Right. When you say that samsara cannot be traced, remember that samsara is a cyclic phenomenon. And for a cyclic phenomenon, for a circle, there is no beginning and there is no end. Any point you begin, any point you put your finger on in a circle, what is the beginning? The previous point. What is the end? The next point. Therefore, Adi Antaha, the beginning and the end, is not possible to talk about logically in a circle. And similarly, creation, Srishti is a cycle. Therefore, whichever cycle you take, there will always be a previous cycle and there will be a later cycle. Therefore, we cannot talk about beginning or end of Srishti. Then, Anirvachaniyatva, logically not categorizable. Because why do we say that? It's not possible to categorize it as a karanam or a karyam. He is saying that from one particular point of view, if something is a karanam for something else, then from another point of view, that same thing is the karyam and something else is the karan. Right? You take the day today. Today has both these definitions. From yesterday's standpoint, today is the karyam, the product. But from tomorrow's standpoint, today is a karanam, the cause. So today is both cause and product. Therefore, anirvachaniyam, it cannot be categorized as either a cause or product. Similarly, take yourself. You are a product from the standpoint of your parents, but you are the cause, the karanam, from the standpoint of your children. Are you a cause or a product? Logically not categorizable. You are also anirvachaniyam, because you are Maya. Therefore, you are anirvachaniyam. Similarly, you have that eternal philosophical question. When I do something, is it because I was fated to do it? Or is it because I have free will? This is also not possible to categorize. So, how to explain that? If something happens today and you think it happened because you did something yesterday, you will call it fate. Correct? You went into a very crowded place yesterday and today you got cold. Is it fate?
No.
Why not? It is because you went there that you got a cold. So from that point of view, it is fate. But if you are going to go there today, then you might get the cold tomorrow. In that case, going there is called what? free will. So when you went yesterday, you got a cold today. Therefore, going to that particular place yesterday was fate. But if you are saying it today, then you will say that if I go there, I will get a cold. Therefore, I have a choice not to go. Therefore, it is free will. It is not logically classifiable at all. Similarly, the universe is also not logically classifiable. The fourth one is there is a root, Mulavatvam. A tree has to have a root below. In the case of the tree, the root is available to your sense organs to observe. Therefore, tree's root is pramana. So, a tree is pramana gochara. But the tree's root is below the ground. You can always say that I will dig up the ground and then see. Okay. But that is not the example. The limitation of the example is you can see the tree, but you cannot see the end of the root. The moolam, the main root, you cannot see because it is under the ground. Therefore, tree is pramana gocharam, available to your indriyas, while the moolam of the tree, the root, is pramana agocharam. Similarly, the samsara tree is available for you to see. But just like the ashwatha tree, the samsara tree must also have a root. And that root is Bhagavan. That root, just like the ashwatha root, is not available for your pramanams. Therefore, that root is pramana agochara. When you look at the tree, you know that without that root, the tree cannot stand. Similarly, when you look at this universe, you must know that without that universal root called Bhagavan, Vishwa Adharam, the universe cannot exist. This is the fourth comparison. The fifth one is Shakhavatvam, multiple number of branches. The Ashwatha tree has got many, many branches. Some are on top, some are close to the trunk, some are far away from the trunk, some are below. Similarly, the samsara tree has got several branches, which we call different lokas, higher lokas, middle lokas, lower lokas. The higher lokas are lokas where people have Deva Shariram. So they are the Urdhva Shakhas, the upper branches. Manusha lokas are under the middle branches. And the lower lokas like Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Rasatala, etc., they are all the lower branches. Therefore, multiple number of branches, which we call Shakhavatvam, is the fifth feature. Then the leaves, Paranani, Paranavatvam. The Ashwatha tree is full of leaves. And the Samsara tree has also got leaves in the form of karma. And these karmas are instigated by the karma kanda of the Vedas. That is why we said that the leaves are like chandas. Karma kanda of the Vedas, the mantras, they are what instigate a person to do karma. Right? So this karma kanda is being compared to the leaves of the tree. And this is very, very important comparison. Because if you look at the tree itself, what is the role of the leaf? The leaf absorbs sunlight, absorbs nutrients, carries water and nutrients to the veins, thus helping the tree to survive and grow. So it's basic to the ecosystem of the tree. Similarly, and that is why the leaves are compared to karma kanda, because the leaves help the tree to survive and grow. The karma kanda of the Vedas, the mantras called the chandas, because it protects the samsara tree through various karmas, promising various results. Right? You want children, you do putra kameshti homa. You want money, you do Avahanti Homa. You want to go to Swarga, you do Nachiketa Homa. So karmas will produce what? Karma phala. Karma phala means what? Punyam and papam. What is the result of punyam and papam? Again and again, you will be born. Therefore, samsara tree is perpetuated by karma kanda, because karma kanda instigates people to do varieties of karma. Therefore, just like the leaf nourishes the ashwatha tree, the karma kanda leaves, the mantras, they nourish the samsara tree. Therefore, they are compared to the leaves of the tree. You're following? Any questions?
Sir, doesn't Karma Kanda talk about Vedic karma?
Vedika karma only we're talking about. It is
But
only Vaidika karma that will generate punyam and papa. If you have a cup of coffee, I mean, it might generate punyam, okay, but you don't know. How do we know that worshipping Ishvara generates punyam? How do you know?
through Shastras only.
Shastra tells you. So, since punyam is adrishtam, the fact that a karma generates punyam or papam has to be known only from Shastra. And therefore, when I drink a cup of coffee, it may or may not generate. I cannot say. I don't know. Because Shastra doesn't talk about drinking cups of coffee. Okay. That's why we may say samsara, cycle of birth and death, is perpetuated by the mantras of the karma kanda only, because they only talk about punya and papa. And you're taking the view that no other karma will generate punya and papa. Okay. Then anatva. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, sir. I wanted to have two explanations. Free will versus the fate, that I did not have much clarity yesterday and what comes today. And the second was when we are speaking about the roots of the tree as compared to Ishvara. So here Ishvara is taken as Ishvara of the samsara, or are we talking about Nirgun
In
Brahman?
this particular verse, we were first talking about Saguna Ishvara, who is support. See, ultimately, if you look at it, it is only Nirguna Brahman which is support.
Yes.
How does
So
it
the
support? Because through Maya. So the
right.
support is only Nirguna Brahman. You can take it either way. It's easier to take it initially as Saguna Brahman and then move away to Nirguna Brahman, which is what the chapter will do.
And the concept about the free will, if you could please explain it again.
It is all
How is
dependent upon your perception. If you are saying that because I went there, I got the problem, that is fate.
okay?
From yesterday's point of view, it is fate. But if it's at hands today, and you're saying, okay, I can decide not to go because I will get cold. There is free will there. You can go or not go. So therefore, the going action, whether it is karanam or fate, whether it's free will or fate, you can never categorize. It can be both, dependent upon your perception. That is why we said it's not categorizable.
Okay. Thank you, Acharya. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Then the seventh one is phalavatvam. Phalam means fruits. So Ashwatha tree has fruits. And what is the role of the fruit in the perpetuation of a tree? So fruits are of, when the bird comes and plucks the fruit and takes it away, the seeds will fall elsewhere and other trees will come. Okay, so fruits also have a role in perpetuation. Apart from that, fruits are of three types: sweet, sour, khatta, meetha, and khatta meetha. Sour and sweet. The third variety is both. Some fruits are both sour and sweet. And this is compared to the three types of karma phala. Sukham, Dukham, and Mishri Phalam. That is, sweet fruit is Sukham, sour fruit is Dukham, and Khatta Meetha fruit is mixed fruit. Both Sukham and Dukham. Is also because this is the comparison between the fruits also. Then this tree becomes a ashraya for the birds, pakshi ashraya. The tree becomes a support for the birds because it serves as the nesting site for the birds. And that when birds are sitting on the fruit, nesting there, then alone they would eat the fruit. So only the birds which occupy the tree, they alone eat the fruits. What is the comparison? In samsara, all jivas are the birds. Some jivas are on higher branches, Svargaloka, Devas. Some jivas are in middle branches, Manushya Lokas. And some jivas are in Adholoka with lower bodies. But all of them, they eat the fruits. This idea is not original. Where do you find
Dvasuparna.
Mundaka,
Dvasuparna.
Dvasuparna.
Dvasaparna, Mundaka, right? So Jivatma bird is perched, sitting on the samsara tree, experiencing the sweet and bitter fruits, just as the bird is sitting on the Ashwatha tree, experiencing all the types of fruits. So this is the eighth idea. The ninth idea is the tree moves, right? Chalanavatvam, it's called Chalanavatvam. It keeps moving. How does it move? Because of the wind, the branches and leaves constantly move. In samsara also, the jivas are violently shaken. By what? What is the wind?
The Prarabdha.
The winds of prarabdha karma shake the jivas, keep them moving all the time. So you are living in samsara under various conditions, in the various places. You are beaten by the winds of prarabdha every single day. Then the 10th one, it is possible to uproot the tree, even though it is very, very huge. It can be uprooted. By what? In the verse, you will see there is a particular description. So it is possible to end this tree by using the appropriate axe. Similarly, samsara tree can be uprooted by the very special axe called jnana. Okay. So with this, let us come back to the first verse. Ashwatham. Yeah.
For this last feature being uprooted, as previous ones, the Chalanatvam, Pakshi Ashraya, you.
Sorry.
No, I just wanted to know if there is a term in Hindi.
In Hindi, Chedayatvam. Chedana. Chedam means to break, to cut.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So, look at the verse. Ashwatham prahuhu. So, you have to supply samsaram. Ashwatham samsaram prahuhu. The Ashwatha tree is said to be like samsara. And what is Ashwatha? Shankara writes, Shana pradhamsinam. Momentary existence. Exists only for one shan, for a moment. And then the description of the tree is given. Urdham moolam, the roots of the tree are up. And here it is Saguna Ishvara is easier to say. Saguna Ishvara is Urdhvam. He is superior because, and that is why Urdhvam. Urdhvam here means Saguna Brahma Ishvara, who is also superior to me because he has more powers than I have. Okay. Then you have to understand that there is the tree is subtle, right? It is subtler than time and space. Now, time is not a very well defined subject because science doesn't really have a definition for time. You cannot look at time. Right? If you look with any of your five sense organs, you are not able to see time. And yet, do you feel time passing by you? That is a very important idea over here. Why are we saying this? Time and space, they have no real definitions. They are very, very subtle. And for that, I am saying that you know that time is passing, and yet you have no definition for time. You cannot perceive it, therefore, you cannot define it. So, Vedanta defines what science cannot define, Vedanta defines. Vedanta says there is, when you talk of Ishvara, what is Ishvara? Maya Saheta Brahman. Correct? Everybody knows Ishvara is Maya Sahita Brahman. Brahman with Maya is called Ishvara. Now, Vedanta says that time is the sambandha between Brahman and Maya. Very, very important definition. Time is the kalaha, is the connection between Brahman and Maya. So, deshaha, that is to say space, kalaha, that is to say time, and vastuhu, that is to say object. Desha, kala, vastu, these three are what link Brahman and Maya. They are the connection between Brahman and Maya. Why do we say that?
These are like the limiting factors.
Excellent. These are the limiting factors. The Jagat is limited by Desha, Kala, Vastu. That limitation, which is apparent only, it's a mithya limitation. That is what is linking Brahman and Maya, and that is called time or Kala or Desha. Okay. And therefore he says, Shankara says that you have to understand that Brahman is even subtler than this subtlest connection. Brahman is subtler than even Desha Kala Vastu. Why? What is subtler than anything? When you say, for example, the Pancha Mahabhutani, right? You come with the grossest, which is what? Prithvi.
E.
Prithvi.
Prithvi.
What is the Karanam of Prithvi? Jalam. Is Jalam more subtle than Prithvi or less subtle?
Yes.
More subtle.
How do you say that?
The no,
Sorry?
we need the sense organs for perception, which we use.
Jalam doesn't have Gandha.
Jalam has less
Gandha.
Gandha.
Very good. So that is the correct
Correct
thing.
less.
In Tattva you had the gunas for each of the. See, that's why I'm saying Tattva you cannot afford to forget. Even if you are doing Brahma Sutras, Tattva you have to remember. Tattva has gunas for each of the elements. The lesser number of gunas, the more subtle it is. Right? Akasha has how many gunas? One.
One.
Therefore, Akasha is the most subtle of all the gunas, of all the elements. And here he says Brahman is even more subtle than Desha and Kalaha. Why? Because time is born when?
At the time
When
of
is
Srishti.
At the time of Srishti. So who is the Karanam for time? Brahman.
Brahman.
The Karanam is subtler than the Karyam. Time is the Karyam and Brahman is the Karanam. Therefore, Brahman is subtler than Karanam also, for three reasons. One is Brahman is the Karanam for time. Secondly, Brahman is eternal, unlike the universe. And third, Brahman is greater, size-wise, quality-wise than the universe. This we saw in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says what? What does Krishna say about the size of the universe in relation to...
Angushtha.
No, that is not Krishna. How can you forget?
It is just a part of me. So can't remember.
Athava bahunayitena kim gyatena tavarjuna vishthabhyam ahamidam kritsnam eka amshena stita jagat. In me, in one amsha, eka amshena, in one small part of me, the entire jagat is situated. Therefore, Brahman is greater size-wise also than universe. Universe is what? Desha Kala Vastu. Therefore, Brahman is greater, more subtle than the Jagat because of these three reasons. Therefore, from here he says that Brahman is Maya Shakti Mat, endowed with Maya Shakti in this particular discussion. Therefore, it is Saguna Ishvara only. But of course, it is Avyaktam, Indriya Agocharam. Such a Saguna Ishvara is Urdhva Moolam, the support of this entire universe and superior to all of us. And this Jagat is Samsara Maya Mayam. Right? Samsara is Maya Mayam. Remember, the word Mayam here is different from Maya. Maya is Maya. Mayam means product, Karyam. Therefore, when you say Samsara is Maya Mayam, you are saying the universe is a Karyam of Maya, is a product of Maya. Maya itself is Mithya. Therefore, the product of Maya necessarily has to be Mithya. Therefore, the word Urdhva Moolam has to be translated as that Saguna Ishvara, which is the Adhishthanam, the substratum for this Mithya Samsara, which is the universe. So that is the first word, Urdhva Moolam. Long discussion on that. Then is what? Adhashakam. Adha means below. We said that Urdhvam was Indriya Agochara, not perceptible by the sense organs. Therefore, Adha here is Indriya Gocharam, perceivable by the sense organs. And these branches are what? Shankara says, Mahat, Ahankara, Tanmatra Adayaha. You have to recall the discussion we had in the fourth verse of chapter 7, where we said, we gave the hierarchy. Brahman, Avyaktam. Avyaktam was what? Moola Prakriti. Then we said Mahat is the next product. Mahat is what? Universal intellect, Samashti Buddhi. Then we said Samashti Ahankaraha, universal ego. Then we said Manaha, Dasa Indriyani, the 10 sense organs. Pancha Sukshma Bhutani, the 5 subtle Bhutani, and Pancha Sthula Bhutani. So I am not going to go over all this again. You have to go back to the 7th chapter, 4th verse, I think it was, where we discussed all this. So there, where we said Mahat, which is Samashti Buddhi, remember that Samashti Buddhi is what? In our language, Hiranyagarbha.
Hiranyagarbha.
And Samashti Ahankara is Virat. Therefore, keeping that in mind, The branches in the other loka are below. The visible loka is the branches. The invisible Brahman is the root. And here when you say Adaha, it is below Brahman. Okay. So all the 14 lokas are covered. We are not talking about lower lokas. Adaha means all the things which are below Brahman. And remember, the root is above. Brahman is the root. And that is above Urdhva Moolam. Therefore, all the lokas are below. The imagery is that of a upside down tree. That you must remember. It's not a tree which is standing straight. That's why Urdhva Moolam. The tree is up, the branches are below. The imagery, whenever you think of in this particular verse, has to be upside down people tree. Therefore, Urdhva Moolam, Brahman is on top, Adashakam, the 14 lokas are below, and Avyayam. So, what is the normal meaning for Avyayam?
Unchanging.
Changing. Right? But here, Shankara says, no, don't take that meaning. You have to take the meaning that Anadikala Pravritatvat. You have to say that this avyayam means that you cannot trace the beginning and the end because it flows in the form of a cycle. How, if you compare to the tree, for a particular tree, you can say that the seed produced the tree. And you can say the tree produced the seed. But if you take the whole cycle, tree produces seed, seed produces tree, tree produces seed, seed produces tree. It goes on and on. There is no beginning and there is no end. Okay, so it is Anadi Anantaha, the cycle. Therefore, Avyayam has to be taken as Anadi Anantaha, beginningless and endless. And then Shankara adds a very, very interesting note. He says that Anadi Ananta Dehadi Santana Ashrayaha. This Jagat, he says, which is Anadi Anantaha, it is finally dependent upon whom? Upon Deha, the Jiva. Why does he say that? The universe is dependent upon the Jiva, he says. What is our normal thinking? We are dependent upon the universe. So he says, no, the universe is your servant. Why? Because it is meant to serve the Jiva by giving you Sukham and Dukham according to your Punyam and Papam. Therefore, you, the Jiva, may be dependent upon Punya Papam for your birth and rebirth. That is fine. But the very Jagat is dependent upon the collective Punyam and Papam of all the people for its own birth and rebirth. The Jagat is born not at random. It's born because of the collective Punya Papam of the entire universe, of entire Jivas. Therefore, Jiva is dependent for Punya Papam. What is Punya Papam? For birth and rebirth. And Jagat is dependent on collective Punya Papam for its birth and rebirth. And this is why the lokas are Anadi Anantaha. Why? Because the Jiva is Anadi Anantaha. Because you are Anadi Anantaha, the loka which is meant to serve you has to be Anadi Anantaha. Okay. We have completed the first 2 quarters. Now look at the third quarter of the first verse. Chandamsi Yasya Parnani. Again, more description of samsara tree. Chandamsi means the verses in the Vedas. So the mantras in the Rig, Yajur, Sama, etc. They are all Parnani. They are leaves of the samsara tree. Just like the leaves and the trees are all together. The Parnani, Vedas and Jagat are together. The trees come along with the Jagat. Sorry, the trees come along with the tree. The leaves come along with the tree. The tree comes along with the leaves. Along with the Jagat, the Veda comes. Along with the Veda, the Jagat comes. Therefore, they are compared to each other. The tree and the leaves are compared to the Jagat and the Vedas. Both are not separatable, both come together. Incidentally, etymologically, the word Chandamsi comes from the Dhatu Chad. Chad means to protect. Therefore, the mantras, chandas, are meant to protect the universe. A reference is, of course, to Karma Kanda, because Karma Kanda instigates people to remain doing Punya Papa Karma, and therefore Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, which is the protection of the universe, because universe will continue to be as long as people continue to do Punya and Papa Karma. Right? And if the majority of people are in Karma Kanda, they are successfully doing what? Perpetuating samsara. So one must not get the idea that Karma Kanda is useless. Karma Kanda you have to enter to get Chitta Shuddhi. And then after getting Chitta Shuddhi only, then you can enter Jnana Kanda. And in his commentary, Shankara explains further. He says, just as the leaves are meant for protecting the tree. Okay. So he's talking about the absorption of sunlight and turning the sun energy into food, photosynthesis, the process. So just as the leaves are meant for protecting the tree, he says, in the same way, the Veda is meant for protecting the world. So this is what I just explained. By more and more karma, the world is successfully perpetuated. And he says, what does the Veda do? It reveals dharma, adharma, tat hetu, phala, pranashanarth. It reveals the dharma, adharma, meaning the punyam and papam karma, it reveals. And tat hetu phalam also it reveals. It reveals also the phalam of such karma. So by telling you that if you do such and such a karma, you will get such and such a benefit. What is it doing? It is what they call, uh, promoting the idea of karma. And by promoting idea of karma, it is finally promoting samsara also. And he says, Yaha tam vedaha. The last quarter. Yes, tam vedaha. Yaha tam vedaha. The one who understands this tree in this manner, with the branches, the leaves, and the fruits, and connects it to the samsara also. And Shankara adds, not only does he know the tree in the manner described here, but he also knows it with its moolam. Samulam. You have to know the tree with its root. Knowing the tree is not sufficient. You have to know the tree with its root, which is Brahman. And therefore, in the language of the 7th chapter, it is not sufficient to know Paraprakriti completely. You have to know Paraprakriti along with Aparaprakriti. Such a person, Savedavita, he alone is a Jnani. He alone has understood the scriptures possibly. Now remember that the term Vedavit is commonly also used for a person who has committed the entire Veda to memory. So there are many people who have not studied the meaning of the Veda, but they fluently recite it every day as a parayana, as a sadhana. Such people, they know the Veda by heart, but they don't know the meaning. So Shankara adds, Vedavit means Veda Arthavit. Means not only the person who has studied and is chanting the Vedas, it means the person who has studied the meanings of the words and sentences also, And Shankara says, other than the knowledge of the samsara tree along with its root, there is nothing more to be known. Not even the smallest thing. All that is required to be known is the samsara tree, Ashwatha tree, along with its moolam. And in this universe, there is anumatram api, nothing is to be known. Anya anumatram api avashishtaha asti. Nothing is left to be known. So this has been said before also. And Shankara tells us, where has it been said? Jnanam deham savijnanam idam vakshyama sheshataha yadgyatvaneha bhuyonyat yatavyam avashishyate. Second verse of the 7th chapter. Right. So the description is what so far? Tree is the Jagat and Ishvara is the Karanamdam, Moolam. Right. Now question comes. For Ishvara to create the universe, what is required?
Karma.
Correct. Ishvara has to have karma to create the
Karma of
universe.
the
Therefore, you have to say that when you talk about Ishvara as the Karanam for the universe, you have to say that Ishvara is Samanya Karanam, the general cause, while Karma is the Vishesha Karanam, which is the specific cause. Just as when you build a house, the bricks are the Samanya Karanam, but the plan, the architectural plan, is the Vishesha Karanam. Without Vishesha Karanam, only the bricks will be there in your front yard. So Ishvara as Samanya Karanam has been pointed out in this shloka number 1. Ishvara as Vishesha Karanam will be pointed out in shloka number 2. Right? And when you say that, you have to reword it. Ishvara is Samanya Karanam is pointed out in shloka number 1. Karma is Vishesha Karanam. It is pointed out in shloka number 2. Who does the karma? Jiva. And therefore, Ishvara cannot create the universe without Jiva. Without you, the Jiva, the creation is not possible. Therefore, creation is a joint venture between you, the Jiva, and Ishvara. And that is why both have to be Anadi. That is why we are saying Ishvara is Anadi, Jiva is also Anadi. So with this, we'll stop for today. Any questions? Okay. So, thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamadav Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Acharya.
Om.
Thank you.